Hello, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. So, I got a lot of stuff to go over today, a lot of crazy stuff. Like, it's nuts. If you're scared of the truth, actually, you might not want to watch this. And if you like our government, you probably don't want to watch it either because these guys are a bunch of globalists and we're literally living in an alternate reality right now. Also, it's crazy. I'm going to show you what I got. I got stats, I got proof. Anyway, let's get right into this. All right, starting with our Minister of Housing and Infrastructure and Minister responsible for Pacific Economic Development Canada. That must be all the money laundering part of it over there in BC. But anyway, Minister of Housing finally submitted, or finally they released his disclosure here. And of course, he probably owns a bunch of properties which aren't specifically disclosed on here. I think they're in a holdco. If you scroll down here, controlling interest in Ohana Partners Inc., controlling interest in 11 other investments, 11 Otters Investments Inc., an investment holding company based in Vancouver, and whatever, something else. But I believe that's where his homes are held, and it's no big secret. Like so many politicians or MPs, they own multiple homes. I did a video on this before. And yeah, that's again, it's not a big surprise there. But what gets me is this here: the spouses/common law partners' sources of income. Last 12 months, contract income with C40 cities. Next 12 months, contract income with C40 cities. So yeah, this is a rabbit hole. And actually, I just messaged that Moose on a Loose guy. He does YouTube videos. I don't know if you watch him, but I watch him, and he links all these politicians to all these companies. He's got a big chart of this flow chart, and yeah, this is a rabbit hole of information here. But this is where we find out that Gregor Robertson is just another globalist pushing the green grift agenda. But let's look at C40 Cities here. So this is their website, C40 Cities World Mayor Summit 2025. Cities have always shaped ideas, trade, and culture. Today, they shape climate action too. So here we go, big climate push. Lots of money for them in the climate, right? They spend all the taxpayer money and they funnel it to whatever they want. But this is what they do here. Cities push for full partnership at COP30. So they're into COP30. Of course, tons of money. These governments love throwing money at this because they're all in bed together with each other. For 20 years, C40 has championed cities as the catalysts for climate action. There we go, catalysts. We hear that word a lot from our current government. Catalyze this and catalyze that and catalyze whatever, employment and misery. But here are some key words or some key topics. Building foundations, influencing agendas, or more proposing agendas, influencing agendas, growing movements, transforming systems. Yeah, anyway, so this is what the C40 cities thing is, right? Now, Vancouver signed on to this in 2015 when Robertson was the mayor between 2008 and 2018. They signed on in 2015. Here's an article: Vancouver mayor joins Pope Francis in push for climate action on climate change, or action on climate change. And this was published 2015. Vancouver Mayor Gregor Robertson has joined a host of other environmentally friendly mayors Tuesday in signing a joint declaration with Pope Francis on pressing for action on climate change. And if you scroll down here, it mentions this group is part of the C40 Climate Leadership Group. Now, this climate cities, or the C40 cities, was originally introduced and founded in Britain. So this is a UK movement. Again, we got Carney, UK, Bank of Governor of England. And again, there's a lot of UK connections. And especially now, you're hearing a lot of this in Canada about pushing the UK and Europe trade. And, you know, we're getting a lot closer now. Europe, they're very green-minded, and they're, you know, they have all the migrants that they let in, so it's not a good thing. And but they like this. Conveniently enough, Donald Trump bad, UK, and all this is good. You know, no speech, no free speech over in Europe, and all these things. But anyway, like I said, this isn't for the faint-hearted. This video here. All right, from the Global Government Forum. I don't even know what this is. I've never even heard of it. I didn't know there was a global government, and I guess this is the forum. And anyway, this is nuts, right? These are globalists. This is what this guy is, a globalist, and Mark Carney, he's the same. They're no different. Trudeau, same thing. The missing link in national climate plans, cities, green pledges in UK election, manifestos, and more. Anyway, it talks about Gregor Robertson in here, where he was appointed. Here he is. Jefferson Darcy, I call him, from Married with Children. If you remember, this is what he acts like him. Like he's just like this carefree guy that he kind of just shows up and says some words and they don't even make sense. But yeah, so anyway, Jefferson Darcy here, the former mayor of Vancouver, has been appointed as special envoy for cities in a high-level climate collaboration with national leaders, and this was for the C40 cities. This is what they're talking about for cities, the C40 cities. Again, there's a whole rabbit hole. This is all related to the WEF and all this stuff. So I did a search here: C40 cities, 15-minute cities, WEF, C40 cities, and the World Economic Forum are connected through the promotion of the 15-minute city concept for sustainable urban development. So the 15-minute city concept hasn't gone away, people. It's still here. Take your bike to work, get taxed if you drive a car, and all the rest of the stuff. No parking either. Of course, Calgary tried to do that, limit the parking in a pretty much drivable city, and now they have to roll back all that urban planning or those changes that they made, right, in the zoning and their blanket zoning. It talks about their C40 cities, World Economic Forum, and the connections between C40 and WEF. The WEF amplifies C40's efforts by providing a platform to discuss and showcase the 15-minute city concept. Both organizations see the 15-minute city as a key strategy for achieving climate goals, building resilience, and creating more livable urban environments. So again, nothing's changed. They just don't talk about this stuff as much anymore. And but if you look at what they're building, Build Canada Homes, there's no homes for you to buy. It's only housing. So he's a housing minister, not a homes minister, not a home buying minister, right? So yeah, this is crazy stuff. But take from that what you will. But it's definitely a strong link and strong message there. I'm going to do a little news from X before I get into these crazy stats this week with that link to the alternate reality. It's crazy stuff. Anyway, you'll see. But anyway, here is PM Carney's housing minister, Gregor Robertson, spends $97,000 to send his executives to a 2-day conference for inspiration on homelessness. So to fight homelessness, he spent $97,000 for $36,600 on hotels and $8,800 on meals. I don't know what the rest of the money was spent on, someone's pocket maybe, but just for inspiration on homelessness. And this is weird, like inspiration on homelessness. Like, why is homelessness inspirational? It's craziness. But yeah, this is the guy. He's got the 15-minute cities. He's got the checkbook now. He can spend whatever he wants from the government. He loves it. He's just along for the free ride, just like Jefferson Darcy, right? That's exactly who he is. This one was kind of fun here. Not too sure about this real estate marketing strategy, but it certainly gets eyeballs. FAFO, right? I'm going to zoom in here. Let me see here. Zoom in. It says, financing approved, firm offer. Financing approver. Okay, that's what FAFO. FAFO means something else, but again, they're doing a play on words there to get your attention. And I always do hear, realtors, we're not going to have a job anymore. Well, I guess the architects aren't either. With AI is coming for you. Prepare accordingly. And yeah, it makes sense. You could get an AI generated floor plan and maybe architectural drawings to your local codes, which is probably a pretty simple thing to do. A lot of input needed for what kind of dimensions you want and stuff, but you probably still have to take it to maybe an architect. Maybe you won't. Maybe you can say, hey, can you modify this room, remove this wall, and re-engineer the roof? Anyway, it's that makes sense that I could see that happening for sure. There's going to be a lot of jobs that are going to AI. And last one here before I get into the stats from Ben Rabideau. Princess Margaret Lottery Grand Prize, $9 million home just sold for $4.3 million. That's about all you need to know about this real estate market right now. That's right there. That explains it all. All right, let's get into these stats here. Craziness. So this is an updated bank power of sales, active listings on the Toronto Real Estate Board as of November 24th, week starting November 24th, 2025, up again to 1,039 bank sales, power of sales. They are increasing. Like they will go down at some point seasonally. They go down. You can see they're on the chart every, the spring or the beginning of the year, they go down a bit. But I hear about so many power of sales. It's crazy. Just yesterday, someone on X messaged me and says, hey, I got this listing coming up and it's in, I'm not going to say the city or the town, but it's in this town. And do you have anyone in this price range looking? And I said, yeah, actually I do. I I have someone in that price range looking in this town, and they might be watching this video. So, but don't worry, I'm not going to give up your information. So the guy goes, call me tomorrow. I'll give the information. Right? He's an agent from GTA. So I call the agent today, and he's like, it's actually a power of sale. We just took it over, but do you have anyone? I said, okay, well, what's the address? So he gives me the address. I go, I think I might have showed that property. So I look it up. I'm like, yeah, I showed this property 2 months ago when it wasn't power of sale. And it was funny, the agent, you probably know who you are too. I show up there and the agent goes, hey, I watch your videos, John. I go, oh, really? But anyway, so it was a different agent that wasn't the power of sale. But yeah, so I'm like showing properties. And this wasn't just the first time this has happened. This happens. Someone just messaged me about one of my listings. They said, hey, John, we heard one of your listings is going power of sale on this street. I said, well, I haven't heard anything, which again is not unbelievable because the owners sometimes are embarrassed and they don't like to tell me. But so I had to drive by the house and make sure there was no signs on the window and like the owner was still living there. And there was no sign, so I don't know what they heard, but there's a good chance that it could be going power of sale because of the situation. But yeah, it's craziness. So they're all over the place. Here's a new chart with power of sales that I actually have never done before. This is a 10-year chart that shows you the trend going from 2015 to today. And this is the monthly new listings. So this isn't just active. This is just new listings here. Power of sale listings. And look at them. And this puts it into perspective over the long term. And there was still a lot of power of sales back in 2015, mind you. But look at them skyrocket. And if you think that this is it, and 2015 was at 300 active new listings per month, and we're only going to be at, not even 500, it's going to skyrocket even further than this. It's going to be crazy. And the mortgage arrears data came out last week. Also, the updated mortgage arrears, I believe it was for September. And I drew a trend line for the number of arrears. So the highest arrears, bar the beginning of the pandemic, but the highest arrears since 2017 were almost as high as the beginning of the pandemic also. And one thing I want to show you on this chart is if you look at the chart, you can see the peak there in 2011 or whenever it was. Look how long it takes to come down. It actually shot down quickly for a bit, but it takes a long time to trickle back down. It takes like almost 10 years. Same with the previous cycle. It was up and down for a bit there. So just when they shoot up, they don't just automatically come down. It takes years for these things to filter through the system. And this is why markets don't rebound instantly. Like they're not going to be off to the races in a year or two from now. This is going to be a long cycle, and I've said this before, and many other people are saying this too. All right, now we're going to get into the reality versus the alternate reality. Now, the reality, we should be in reality. It should be on the left, or the left side, the picture there with the nice grass. But we're living in this alternate reality, and the alternate reality started in 2020. Now, there's been a bunch of alternate realities. You can go say, oh, this has been like this for 30 years and 40 years. I agree, but we saw it firsthand 2020 when the government was reckless, increased the money supply, decreased the interest rates. Now, if you don't think the government was involved in that, they were. It was the governor of the Bank of Canada, right? Said, go out and spend money. Don't worry, the interest rates. Like, that was crazy. So they created this alternate reality with their fiscal irresponsibility back in 2020. And this is what we're living in. Now, I have some charts to show what it should be and what it is, obviously. So let's check out the first chart here. So this is the mortgage arrears, again, one of the things I track, and versus reality versus the alternate reality. And so the reality is the dark blue or the regular blue, and the alternate, that which we're living in. The alternate is what we're living in. It's the data right now, but we should have the reality. The reality should be the cycle should have played out. Interest rates should have remained stable or even went up from 1.75% pre-pandemic, because that's what they were, the Bank of Canada rate. And it should have went up, a little bit higher, and bank sales would have increased and mortgage arrears and all the rest of this. This is where we should have been. And look at the timelines here. The timelines, this chart goes back to 1995. And so we do have a bit of the last cycle in there. We don't have the data going any further, unfortunately. But 13 years in the first cycle on the chart, and 13.5 years is what we should be. But this cycle is going to be drawn out. And of course, the government and the politicians and the haves have made so much money, and their assets have increased in value. They don't want this to end, but it will end. And, they're going to try to print their way out of it just like they did. But this is what the reality should be right now. And let's move on here to the unemployment rate, right? Another thing that is influenced by interest rates and economies and whatnot. And you can see, like, it should be like this. Look at that light blue line. Like, that's insane. Like, that is not reality. That is an alternate reality created by recklessness of governments. And that was not normal. Like, look at that spike. Like, that should never have happened. So to say that was normal, that's not normal. This is what normal should look like. But of course, we're not living in reality, in a normal reality. We're living in the alternate reality. And here's the timelines on this: 13 years, and it should have been 14 years or so. Could have been 13, who knows? But it should have looked something like this. And of course, what about prices? Prices, right? Here is what the prices would have looked like based on that other data. We would have had prices around 500,000. They would have went up to almost 575, dropped back down. Oh, big real estate crash. Everyone would have been talking about it. You're paying 475 for a house. My house went down 100 to $1,000. Instead of it going down 100,000, it went down 100,000 in 1 month instead of over a few years, which was crazy. Like, that is not normal. And again, we've kind of just accepted that this happened, but now we're stuck in this sideways holding pattern because they're trying to keep this going. They're trying everything possible. It's not going to work, but reality will catch up. This is like the Matrix or like Doctor Strange from the from that movie. Like, there's like reality. You can just choose a different path, and this is what the government did for us. They manipulated the system and chose a different path, which is, it's craziness. Yeah, so 14 years is what this cycle should have been, from the low to the low, right? So our low would have been in 2023 or so. I think mid 2023 I had it for our low point when our prices hit the thing. So we should have been recovering right now. Everyone should have been happy. They got a house. There's bank sales out there. Bank sales probably would have peaked. Whatever. It's like, but we're not living in reality. We're living in an alternate reality. It's craziness. Like, this is craziness. And when I actually analyze this stuff, it makes sense, right? Like, let me know in the comments what you think, but it is like, we're living in a crazy world, and I don't think anyone would argue that at this point. All right, lastly here, the TREB membership. So we couldn't find this data because they switched all the stuff around, but I finally found it. So we have the Toronto Real Estate Board membership numbers. You can see there they peaked in late 2023. So at the end of the year, our numbers always drop because our dues come due, and a lot of people quit. And like, there was over 6,000 people that quit in 2023, probably 5,000 last year, actually more than 5,000. And then they slowly work their way back up as new members join and whatnot. And it's a whole business by itself, mind you, educating and joining real estate. Most people don't last, but again, that's a separate business by itself. And our peak numbers on the membership was in 2023, late 2023, before the renewal came, and it was 75,669 members. And now we're at our peak this year in 2025 was 70,580. So it's over a 5,000 person drop, biggest drop in probably history. But look at before, it was 65,060 to 65,000 members in 2021, and even lower in 2020. So we're probably going to see, we probably won't return to pre-pandemic numbers because the population has increased, but it will be in that, 65,000 or so. So we still have more agents to lose, I guess, at this point, especially from the membership. Now, you can still keep your license with the Canadian Real Estate Association. You're just not part of a board, so you don't have access to the data and the listings and all the support and all the rest of the stuff. And I don't know, you write an offer, you're like, hey, John, can you send me an offer? I'm not part of a board. Can you send me the details? And I don't know how they write the offer either, because you have to have access to that. But anyway, here is an overlay with the average price. Now, if you look at the average price, this is just the TREB data, which is, it's kind of reflective of Canada, obviously higher prices than the national average. But it peaked in February 2022, just like the national price did. But look how long it took for the number of members on TREB to peak. It was, a year and a half later, because people were getting their licenses. They're in school, and they're like, well, I'm still going to get my license. I'm going to join. I'm going to, try real estate. But the market's crashing in front of them. But by the time they realized, it's a year and a half later. And of course, now a lot of those new agents would be struggling. So they'd be quitting along with existing members that really never made much money anyway. So yeah, a year and a half lag time from peak pricing to peak membership on the Toronto Real Estate Board. And last slide here is the number of sales compared with the membership. And that is like 2.5 years lag time from the peak sales. So peak sales was in 2021. Peak pricing 2022, because of course there was less listings in 2022, which drove up the prices even more. But the peak sales were in 2021, early 2021, and 2.5 years before the peak membership happened. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty interesting comparison there, because someone was just talking about that on X, and so I was like, yeah, I'll just add this into today's presentation. Okay, so that's it for this video. Let me know, as always, what you think in the comments. Are we living in an alternate reality? Again, just in real estate. But what do you think? Let me know. And yeah, do you believe that our government are still a bunch of globalist puppets pushing their green agenda? I obviously think they are. They don't talk about it much anymore, but it does affect their policies, and you see a lack of action on things. So not as outspoken as the Trudeau government was, but yeah, they're still obviously in bed with the globalists and the 15-minute cities and all the rest of this. And I think that needs to change. We need prosperity, not ideology. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.